let's be clear about what's going on here. We understand that President Trump doesn't like this investigation. We understand that. That's clear. But what we've seen in this joint committee and in the Judiciary Committee meeting just a couple weeks back, with members of the House demeaning themselves by asserting that the Deputy Attorney General sat there under oath and lied. Today, repeated assertions that Mr. Strzok is sitting before us under oath, lying to us. The efforts to impugn the credibility not just of Mr. Strzok, but of the entire FBI. It's shameful, truly shameful. The depths to which some of my colleagues have plummeted in order to advance a narrative to support the president's opposition to an investigation, which is an investigation, as Mr. Strzok pointed out, and as too many of us seem to have forgotten, is an investigation into the Russians' efforts to destabilize the democracy of the United States of America. I wish that the attacks that have been leveled against Mr. Strzok, the attacks on Rod Rosenstein, the attacks on our FBI director, I wish there was even a slight degree of that same fervor directed against what the Russians did in 2016 so that we could get to the bottom of that and anticipate what they're trying to do this November and in 2020. Now, Mr. Strzok, this is the Inspector General's report. The number one finding in this Inspector General's report is that the FBI should not discuss ongoing criminal investigations. That's what the IG said Director Comey did wrong. The IG said he shouldn't have done it. The IG went into great detail about the long-standing practice and the reasons for that practice to protect the integrity of ongoing criminal investigations. In this case, the investigation that I just referred to, a direct attack by a foreign adversary. But listening to my Republican colleagues, it's almost as if they never read this report. Like you never bothered to pick it up. Or worse, you read it, you understand it, but you don't care. You're asking Mr. Strzok to do exactly what the Inspector General said not to do. Exactly. Mr. Strzok, if you answer these questions that you've been asked about this investigation, are you concerned that the Inspector General could investigate you and issue a report just like this one that says that you should never have done that?
Certainly that's possible. I'd be more worried about the impact on the ongoing investigation.
I understand. It's a ridiculous position to put you in. The Inspector General explained in this nearly 600-page report that the mistake Director Comey made was discussing the ongoing steps the FBI was taking in the Hillary Clinton investigation. Here's what we've heard today. We heard it from the chairman. We heard it from my colleagues. You've got two choices. You can ignore the FBI's policy that has been put in place to protect these investigations. I'm going to let you talk about that in a second, and answer the questions, in which case maybe you trigger an IG report, or you don't answer those questions and maybe we hold you in contempt. Now, can you just, again, since this has been a really long day, can you explain why it's important not to interfere with ongoing criminal matters?
Well, there are a variety, and I'm sure I won't come up with all the reasons, but the first is we do a lot of investigations where we never charge anybody, and it's simply not fair to, given the investigative power we have, to do something that would unnecessarily tarnish them or their image. Two, in the cases where we are investigating, talking about it is going to screw up a bunch of things you might want to do investigatively, talking to witnesses, talking to the subject. And then finally, you want somebody to have a fair trial. And if we're talking about it or putting our finger on the scale, it would just be horribly inappropriate and against what we stand for in the criminal justice system.
And the negative consequences on the outcome of that investigation?
Would be tremendous. Would adversely impact potentially the ability to get a fair trial, to conduct a competent investigation, to conduct one that arrived at the truth.
Right. Mr. Strzok, I appreciate that last comment, and I would just urge my colleagues that in the midst of this apoplexy that seems to be breaking out among so many of my colleagues, that we remember that ultimately what we're really trying to do here is get to the truth. And the truth that we need to get to is exactly what a hostile foreign adversary did to interfere with our democracy. Let's please keep that in mind as we move forward. Let's make that the focus. That's what the American people are expecting. That's what they're counting on us to do. Get out of the way. Let this investigation go forward. Let's get to the truth. I yield back the balance of my time.